Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Newsroom. I'm your host, Umar Khalid Butt. The topics that we will be discussing upon today are, the first is Pakistan rejecting the allegation of exporting the coronavirus to other countries, especially to the United Kingdom. Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on National Security, Dr. Moeed Yusuf, has categorically rejected allegations that have been making the airwaves that Pakistan has exported the novel coronavirus to different countries that include the United Kingdom. As you very well know, that there were some passengers in an Emirates Airlines who were found to be COVID-19 positive who were going to Hong Kong. Well, this is our first segment. Our second segment is the China-India tensions. While on one side we see a little bit of easing of those tensions, on the other side we see that there is an economic turnaround as far as the relationship between India and China is concerned, for the negative, in fact. What India has done, it has banned 59 Chinese mobile applications that of course include TikTok, that includes Weibo, that was being used by Narendra Modi as well, who is the Indian Prime Minister, as well as other apps that are very popular in India, including WeChat, and of course here as well in Pakistan. What are going to be the implications of that? Because what the Ministry of Commerce spokesperson Gao Feng told reporters during an online briefing was that these actions were in violations of the World Trade Organization rules. Let's see how that goes on. Our third segment is about Indian jingoism, nothing new about that, and its implication on regional peace. As you very well know, that a top Indian leader had gone to Russia, and as a result there has been an approval for 21 MiG-29 planes and a dozen Su-30 jets that will together cost around 181.48 billion rupees, that is 2.43 billion US dollars. That has been stated by the Defense Ministry. 33 Russian fighter jets and upgrades to another 59 planes will be taking place as per the agreement between India and Russia. This might be a resurgence of the relationship between Russia and India, but how will that implicate also the relationship between China and US? We'll try to talk about that as well. Let's begin with our first segment. Pakistan has rejected the allegations of exporting the COVID-19 to other countries, especially to the United Kingdom. To talk more about that, we've been joined by Shafiq Ahmed Saab. He's a senior analyst. Shafiq Saab, pleasure to have you on board. Shafiq Saab, what kind of allegation is this? This allegation of exporting, that Pakistan is exporting the COVID-19 virus to other countries. How do you feel about allegations such as these?
It's all rubbish, honestly speaking. It's a very, you can say, it's like a smear or like a bad words chosen by the British authorities for this kind of spread of coronavirus. Yes, there is no doubt some of the passengers who traveled from Pakistan to UK and they were tested positive, but it doesn't mean that you blame a country, the entire country, for exporting coronavirus to their country. Like the number of COVID-19 patients or infected persons are more in UK than Pakistan. The problem is that some of the travelers who traveled from Pakistan to UK, they actually they got their test, and some of the test facilities in Pakistan is not up to the mark. There is no doubt in it. So there is a suggestion from Dr. Moeed that the passengers who are traveling to Europe or traveling to any other country, they should go to the best lab to get their test done, and then they should travel to other countries. So blaming the entire country for
Because
few
you know,
passengers
Shafiq Saab, to be very frank, and as has been also told by the SAPM on national security, Dr. Moeed Yusuf, he said that only 30 passengers tested positive. That doesn't make Pakistan exporting the virus to any other country. You know, these people could have very easily gotten that virus from some other place after having been tested. And of course, he did mention the fact, as you've also said, that some of the laboratories maybe were not top of the notch as far as detecting the COVID-19 are concerned, but the government is making due efforts in that regard. What do you have to say on that?
That is true. Like blaming the entire country for using the language of exporting coronavirus is definitely not a good language, not a diplomatic language. Yes, there is a problem in the system, but the 30 passengers, they might have caught or got infected while traveling to UK. So no one know where they got where they caught the infection. Let me, Omar Barsab, one example. Like New Zealand was corona-free country, the only country where there was no corona at all. But suddenly, two sisters from UK, they traveled to New Zealand and they were infected with COVID-19. And then again, the spread started. So what the language of New Zealand government used against England? They said nothing. There is a problem, and actually, what they say that there was a problem in our system. That's why we allowed the two British sisters to travel inside or some cities in the New Zealand. So instead of blaming others, the New Zealand government blamed itself for not detecting coronavirus in the two sisters. Now, once again, there are some cases of coronavirus because of the two sisters who are British national and they travel from UK to New Zealand. So let me come back to the same question. Like if you have a problem at the airport or a Heathrow airport, unable to detect the coronavirus, or you are able to detect it, but you are not providing them facilities. So it doesn't mean to blame the entire country for exporting coronavirus. This is really bad language. And honestly speaking, the way Dr. Mueed responded was very well. Like
Was
they
very
may have
dignified.
caught the
Shafiq
virus,
Saab, also,
maybe traveling.
as you remember very well, there have been cases from abroad also that came to Pakistan. We never raised a hue and cry saying, oh, X and Y came from E or Z country and, they have exported the virus to our country. We never raised a hue and cry like that. There's a certain dignified way of expressing concern when a patient is COVID positive and comes from another country. But that does not mean that you suddenly start pointing the finger and say that everything is coming from them.
That is true, exactly. Like when the corona cases started in Pakistan, there was a confusion. The first case came either from Iran or the first patient came with a COVID infection from UK. Like he reached Islamabad. So Islamabad, the pandemic started in Islamabad from a traveler or from a passenger who came from a UK. But Pakistan never used such kind of language. It is totally undiplomatic. Like you can have a question on the system. Yes, we have some bad system. We may not be that much efficient in our system like the other countries
Or
maybe,
that we may
but it
not be
doesn't
very
mean that
efficient in our systems, but we are making the strides in the right direction. Shafiq Sahab, kindly stay with us.
of
We've
course.
been joined by Javed Jadoon, senior analyst and senior journalist as well. Javed Jadoon Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Javed Jadoon Sahab, why are these allegations suddenly emanating from other countries as if we are the root cause of exporting the coronavirus to other countries?
I think this is the most preposterous kind of an allegation against Pakistan, because we know that it's a global pandemic, and Pakistan is not the only country where you find coronavirus or COVID-19. I think Pakistan has resorted to smart lockdowns, and these lockdowns. You all know that the statistics show that we have been able to bring down the number of the infected cases in Pakistan. Especially, we have done it in major cities, and I think so far I have read, it is because of the second wave which is hitting most of the European countries and the United States of America, where we have seen some of the highest number of coronavirus cases over there. So I think blaming Pakistan or alleging that Pakistan is basically exporting, as you pointed out at the outset, that Pakistan is exporting coronavirus to other countries, I think that this is the most baseless allegation one can level against any
Exactly,
country.
in diplomacy, in relationship between any two countries, there's a certain dignified manner of reporting things, talking about certain issues. And of course, Dr. Mueed Yusuf also said that it might be possible that the laboratories where they got tested were not at the level of detecting amounts of COVID-19, due to which it could have happened that they exported it. But he said this is not the way to deal with a situation such as this. You cannot put the blame on a certain country for exporting the COVID-19 to other countries.
Absolutely. I think there is not a single country on planet Earth which would like to export deliberately coronavirus, or because of I think you're very right in pointing out that the possibility is definitely there that the testing maybe is not up to the mark, and there's a possibility that some of the cases might have slipped through the testing process.
Exactly.
But
And Pakistan is not the only country where cases have slipped from laboratories. There have been so many other countries, cases in other countries where they were tested negative and in fact they were positive because the tests weren't done right.
I think if it wasn't the case, then I think corona shouldn't have spread to the entire globe.
Exactly, and you cannot just put the blame if 30 patients are positive. You cannot say, oh, all the patients, all the exportation of COVID-19 is coming from Pakistan. Stay with us online, Javed Jadoon Saab, Shafiq Ahmed Saab. There's also the point of unauthorized labs and the way you need to get tested. We know that the government has installed strict regulations now for all the passengers that leave Pakistan to go anywhere in the world. How important are these regulations as well?
Regulations are extremely important, but it must be implemented. The government should ensure it should be implemented, because if someone is traveling abroad, so he is usually educated and from middle class or wealthy class, so they should go to those labs which are approved by the government or WHO. This is very
Exactly.
important. They should take this issue very seriously. And if they are positive, they shouldn't travel at all. When they are negative and they are okay, they should take all precautionary measures before traveling to any other country. But let me perhaps add one thing. Uh, for me, like, it is the same like when Donald Trump, the president of US, blamed China for exporting this coronavirus. The same way UK is saying, blaming Pakistan. Like, for its own failure, like America totally failed to stop or to restrict the spread of coronavirus. They they have been blaming China since long. So there is no way for you blaming other for your own failure. The same is has been done by the
That
UK.
is true. And if
They
you
have
have to
totally
deal
failed.
with that, if you have to talk to another country or the representatives of another country, there is a dignified manner of talking to them, and there's a dignified manner of reporting such issues as well and dealing with such situations, because COVID-19 is not as if we brought COVID-19 to another country. The COVID-19 has been there in the other countries even before it came to Pakistan.
This is the weak leadership, by the way. Let me say, a weak leader is always blaming others. The same has been done by Donald Trump, and we have seen his popularity graph is on the decline. The same has been done by Narendra Modi of India. He blamed the Muslims for exporting of or spreading corona, which was all rubbish, by the way. They
Yes.
blamed the Tablighi Jamaat just for its own failure. Like, in the world, India is number fifth, I believe, for the
Yes.
infected person. So I mean, when you are failed to handle some issues, you blaming other is very easy. So it was
True.
totally undiplomatic language. The way they blame Pakistan, it is definitely not acceptable
Exactly.
at all. Yes,
Diplomacy is the key issue here between any two countries. You need to resort to dignified manners of talking about subjects that are affecting both your countries. Thank you very much, Shafiq Ahmed Saab, to have joined us. And we'll be, of course, taking you in the future as well. Now, Javed Jadoon Saab, let's come to you. How do you foresee, or how do you see all the efforts that have been made by the current government to detect COVID-19? You know that there are teams who inspect the public in Pakistan at any random place. The tests for them are free of cost, and there also have been reductions in the cost of the PCR test or the antibody test for everybody. The cost has been reduced to a large extent. The government continues to talk about the SOPs that need to be followed by each and everyone, whether you're positive or you're negative. How do you see the measures that have been taken by the government?
Yes. I think dealing with the pandemic has never been the easy process or an easy thing to do. Even in the past, when pandemics broke out, it caught every government or every country by surprise. And I think this is what happened with COVID-19 as well. And I can't see a single example in the entire world where a single government has been able to do it perfectly. Because It is a pandemic. Definitely, you don't know the patterns. The pathogen is mutating, and in every country you see different kind of effects and impacts. In certain countries you see very chronic cases. In some countries you don't see that. So even the researchers, the scientists, the medical experts, even after the passage of 3-4 months, they have not been able to understand the pathogen, and they have not been able to understand the kind of a pattern it takes in every country. Having said that, I'm not saying that Pakistan's overall system has been perfect. We may have made mistakes. Every country does make mistakes. And
Javed Jadoo, all the countries have flaws. Even the so-called developed countries like the US and the United Kingdom and Europe have flaws in their systems.
This is what I'm saying. Even the countries like Russia, like Britain, like Italy, Spain, France, and USA as well. Even today we see the kind of phenomenal growth or exponential growth in cases in states like Texas, etc., in Arizona. And why it is happening? I think that there's a most advanced system in place over there in the USA. The medical healthcare is the most sophisticated in the world, and the governance system is flawless as they claim to be. So why blame Pakistan for any kind of a thing? Exporting, I think it is, in my personal opinion, it's a very, very objectionable wording when somebody says, any leader or anyone else says that Pakistan is exporting. Exporting means Pakistan is doing deliberately.
Because that, of course, that says that we are being deliberately doing something against any other country.
How it is possible? I think, in my opinion, not a single country would like to do that. While every country is dealing with this pandemic, why they would like to export? Is Pakistan out there to harm any country's interests or any country's population, or any other countries out there to harm Pakistani population? I don't believe that. I think one should be responsible in issuing statements or making rhetorics where the selection of words should be very careful.
Exactly.
And one can
I totally agree with you on that.
There has been issues with the testing process in Pakistan, so it has been everywhere else. You test negative in one lab and you test positive.
Now, I really hope, Javed Jadoo Saab, as you are a senior journalist yourself, that countries like the United Kingdom refrain from issuing statements such as these. And I hope they have understood that the point has been, of course, put across by our side that this is not the way to deal with issues such as these. We, as any other country, does not want to export cases of COVID-19 to any other country. Thank you very much, Javed Jadoo Saab, to have talked to us. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, is the continued row between China and India. Has this row now from a military row become an economic row? We know that 59 applications have been banned by the Indian government, the applications that include TikTok or WeChat or another that was also being used by Narendra Modi, and he's deleted his account since then. What will be the repercussions of all that for China, for India? We've been joined by economist Dr. Farida Faisal. Dr. Farida Faisal, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Farida Faisal, India and its attitude, whether it's political or economic, and the way it deals with situations with other countries is something that baffles the mind. I can understand that they are very, they think only of themselves, but then when they go beyond that and take measures which a common man does not understand, I would really like to know what your point of view is as to this continuation of the row between China and India that has now taken an economic turn.
Thank you, Umar. I think that this is kind of a coercive diplomacy on part of India, where it uses its market size and its economic might in order to coerce its neighbors who are, let's say, not as powerful as India is because of the size of its economy. So it does that with neighbors like Nepal, for example, with Burma, for example, even to some extent with Bangladesh. Tries to do the same thing with Pakistan because in terms of trade, definitely it is the dominant partner. Now they are trying to do the same thing with China, but they don't realize the might of China. They have taken on the dragon now, and they will learn to regret it. Because in this case, unlike the other cases, it is China which is the dominant party. So in this case, So in this case, what happens is that they don't understand that this time they have bitten off a piece which is too big to swallow. So okay, it is just the start of that, the trade war. And as far as the Chinese mindset is concerned, let me tell you, Umar, they don't like to make enemies of countries in terms of the trade particularly. So
Exactly, and
despite,
that is the statement
if
that
you
has also
remember,
been emanated from the spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce. He said, we're not initiating any such thing. And he said he did not understand why India was doing that. And he also said that this was a violation of the World Trade Organization rules. Does India give two hoots about it?
no,
Violating
but the point
World Trade
is,
Organization rules.
that before this, you see what they do, what Indians do in terms of the way that they try to subjugate their neighbors in terms of undermining their economies, which is, it's a very, in terms of the international trade, it is a very myopic kind of step in the end. When two
I
countries
agree.
don't
It's
trade,
very myopic. They can't
very
understand the
myopic.
broader picture.
When two countries don't trade, it hurts both of their economies. Okay, so but they can get away with this kind of manipulation. What do you think the FATF is? Why they are playing such a negative role against Pakistan in FATF? So they're
Exactly.
used to doing
You
that.
have
They
hit
use
the nail on at the right point, Dr. Farida Faisal.
exactly.
Because on the
So
one hand, Dr. Farida Faisal, they say, oh, we are going to ban Chinese because economically, because we want to put a dent on their economy, which of course they will never be able to. On the other hand, they accuse Pakistan of deploying troops along the line of control and China using the Skardu airbase. You must have read about that lately as well. So don't you feel this is some kind of a fear that they have from strong neighbors such as China, that they are showing in an economic manner by putting a ban on the applications? It's just a token kind of, like we do a token appreciation. This is a token depreciation of
threat. No,
the
it's
relationship between the two countries.
no. That is the only way India knows. It threatens. It is a power which threatens its own people. It is a power which threatens its neighbors. So, I mean, that is the kind of unfortunate role that India has been playing under this Modi government. And really, I think the world now needs to understand what kind of coercive power this India is. And but this time around, I think that they've made a very bad strategic move and they will pay for it. But let me explain the Chinese mindset. That's very important. You see, even when you look at the way the Chinese have handled the US under Trump, you will see that they have not really gone overboard ever. They do
Exactly. There's
not
a
make this
certain
kind of
dignified manner with the way they have dealt with it as well.
dignified. They do not make rhetorical statements. They do not make big, claims. But they, slowly and surely they do the work which they have to do. For example, look at this Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), of which CPEC is such an important component. So you see, in this part, what they are doing, they are trying to establish the trade links, isn't it? So in that way, both the sides are going to benefit. So I mean, let us give the Chinese their due. Definitely, every nation in the world does things because it is in their self-interest. But they secure their self-interest not by trying to debilitate other nations, but by trying to take them along. On the other hand, look at the way India is playing. Okay, if you are such a big market, then you should be playing the role of a bigger brother. But no, it is the hegemon of the area, and I think that this time around they will regret it.
But do you feel that this regret will be understood by the Indian side? Or is there another angle to that as well? Because as you know, there are local inborn applications as well that have not been given that much of importance because of the Chinese applications that are much, much better in many ways. Now, do you feel that is also a manner to kind of promote the local inborn talent? I mean, I'm trying to be very positive here. Because there are applications that have gained popularity, that have gained a lot of subscribers just because those 59 Chinese applications have been banned.
Umar, giving the devil his due, definitely they have the Indians have done well in terms of the IT sector, no doubt about it. But remember, the economy is more than IT sector only.
True.
What does the IT sector contribute? Is it 5%? 6 7%? I'm not 100% sure, but that is the extent of what the sector is. In every other sector of their economy, Chinese are there in the supply chains, so there is no way in the world that they can simply write off China or sever their economic ties with China without damaging themselves. So these are simply moves which are shown to the rest of the world that that they're trying to fight back. But in reality, they simply do not have the economic muscle to fight with China. It is just that the Chinese are low key people. They don't give big statements. That is why they are not saying anything. But the fact of the matter is that the Chinese have a very strong hold on the Indian economy. And if things get worse, or if this military situation deteriorates, and the Chinese want to go for a tit for tat move, India will be nowhere.
I mean, exactly. I mean, it will be India that will be the party that will lose the most. Former Ambassador Asif Durrani joins us. Kindly stay with us, Dr. Farida Faisal, as well. Former Ambassador Asif Durrani joins us. Asif Durrani Sahab, how do you view this spat that has taken an economic turn between China and India?
I think India is on a societal course. Because when you look at the trade, it's almost $60 billion in favor of China. And that favor doesn't mean that it's only benefiting China. It is giving actually to China cheap raw material and then those products which are needed for the Indian consumer markets. So it's going to harm the Indian consumer more than the Chinese. This trade war in a low simmering way has already been there between the United States and China, and Americans have been unable to impose restrictions the way they wanted to, and it started during the past one decade.
This brings me to a very important point. Do you feel also that the US has something to do with this economic turnaround of the spat between China and India? Do you feel they are also guiding India because they can't do it? You yourself have just said that. If they can't do it, so they are asking other countries to do that for them.
No, but it's this will in fact harm India more. Because America cannot compensate for the losses the Indians are going to incur from this trade. Yeah. So in this way, it is going to harm more to India than to China. So probably Mr. Modi does not realize that India is not in a position to inflict losses on China. In fact, it would give more losses to India than to China. I gave the example of the United States because United States did try this in the past and could not succeed. And at that time, I mean, right now the American-Chinese trade is, I think, over $650 billion. So, and China-India trade is hardly 2% trade of China's overall trade. So with this 2%, of course, Chinese would not want to lose the market, but at the same time,
we'll continue our conversation with you, Ambassador Asif Durrani. I'll just ask you to pause for a little while. Dr. Farida Faisal, there's one important point that we haven't discussed while we were talking to you about it. That is the political or the security angle that the Indians have kind of diverted this whole banning of the Chinese apps. They say that national security and privacy concerns are the reason due to which they are banning these apps. What kind of reasoning is that in your opinion?
Well, again, it will be, they may say anything. I mean, when you talk about these apps...
Ambassador Asif Durrani Sahab, kindly just hold on the line. I'm going to ask the question to Dr. Farida Faisal, then I'm going to come back to you. Yes, Dr. Farida Faisal.
Thank you. I'm sure that the political angle is better explained by
Yes, I will ask his point of view as
excellency,
well.
but I'll try to give it my perspective from an economic point of view. Basically, you see, what happens is that for the economy to perform well, there needs to be some kind of investor confidence. Do you understand? And in order to restore that investor confidence, which is heavily shaken because of the military losses which India has taken, they are trying to give this kind of signals to their investors, to their probably their consumers, to their business people, that they are in control, and that that they also are a power to contend with. So it is only for the domestic audience. But do you see, if you understand, if you look at the basics of it, this is not something which will be which in the long run can provide any solutions. And when there will not be any long run solutions, the market itself is going to find the correct signals. So this is basically to restore the consumer confidence within
Investor
India itself.
confidence, the consumer confidence in India. Thank you very much, Dr. Farida Faisal, to have given us your point of view. Thank you so much. Ambassador Asif Durrani Saab, now your take. You've heard what Dr. Farida Faisal had to say. Investor confidence, consumer confidence, is that all there is to it in the statement that has emanated from the Indian side, that the government of India has decided to disallow the usage of certain applications, which is a targeted move to ensure safety and sovereignty of Indian cyberspace? How true in your
I
point of
think
view is that?
Dr. Sabha has said it right, and the investors' confidence is the biggest, you can say, it builds the biggest stakes for any receiving country. And if Indians, put restrictions on the Chinese investments, then all investments are almost linked to one each other. So I'm not sure, but at the same time, the analyses which have come up, they say that by putting a ban on different apps, in fact, the Chinese have invested heavily in India. And in that case, then any other country may also think twice while investing in India.
Because of course, the Chinese businesses, Ambassador, are around 60 billion US dollars in India, if I'm not wrong. And even that, there are people who are saying we should stop those, the business agreements or the business transactions that are going on between India and China. Do you feel, Ambassador Asif Durrani, that this is a first step of another step that they might take in the future to further halt business activities between China and India? Or do you feel it's just a sign that they wanted to make?
Well, I think let's see. Let's not jump the gun at the moment. Because Indians have tried to ratchet up, but they'll soon realize that it's not going to work. India did try in early 2001, after the attack on the Indian Parliament. They did try to raise the temperatures against Pakistan. But it was the call centers and their owners, they rushed to India and other investors that if you do that and if you raise the temperatures, then investors are not going to come. They have already warned us. And in fact, American investors did say that, well, stop investing in India, and they issued the travel advisories. So if the temperature rises between China and India, so then naturally there will be many other actions which other nations are going to take, apart from China, which is also likely to take some countermeasures. Yes.
But do you feel, sir, that in the long run, China might take countermeasures to what India has done by banning the applications? My last question to you.
I think Chinese have got the upper hand. So in that way, I think they hold the trump card. So it is up to the Indians how. And the Indians have don't hold the key to the solution, or Indians don't hold the trump card. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Asif Durrani Saab, to have joined us, to have given us your perspective from a diplomatic point of view as far as this spat between India and China is concerned, that has now taken an economic turn. How far it will go, as Ambassador Asif Durrani said, let's wait and watch and not jump the gun. Our last segment of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is about the continued Indian jingoism and threat to regional peace. We have seen it, how they have done it in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We saw how they did it in the line of actual control between China and India. We saw how the spats rose between Nepal and India as well, and of course Bangladesh isn't happy. There are other countries that are not happy, and of course that continued spat, anti-Pakistan spat that has been going on and on and on. Whatever happens in India, it's Pakistan's fault, without any proof whatsoever. Now, in a continuation of that jingoistic behavior, as you know that the Indian side went to Russia to enforce their military capabilities, and as a result of that there has been an approval of the purchase of 33 Russian fighter jets and upgrades to another 59 planes, which they want to in order to beef up their air force when the military is locked in a border standoff with China. We all remember the Pulwama incident as well, and I think all of my viewers do as well. We are being joined, in fact, by Dr. Amna Mahmood, who's a foreign affairs expert, to talk more about that, the Indian continued behavior and this purchase of aircrafts. What sign does it portray to its neighboring countries, to itself, to its people, and to the region in particular? Dr. Amna, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Amna, I just made in my introduction, talked about these 33 Russian fighter jets that have been bought from Russia, as well as the upgrades to 59 planes. How do you view this development?
Assalamu alaikum, Umar. Much for letting me answer this question. It's very interesting to see that India is building up again its arsenal in the name of threat from China. If you recall in your mind, in 1962, India did the same, that it made hue and cry that China is coming, attacked on us, and then the whole world rushed to save India and provided so much high standard weapons and aircrafts, etc. This is the same time when they are using this threat in procuring and in acquiring aircrafts and other weapons all over the world. And this is, as you mentioned, this deal, it is part of that campaign. And moreover, along with this procurement, they are trying to upgrade their previous aircrafts in order to meet the threat from China. So I think that India is using this opportunity to make their military update, their air force update, and giving the world impression, especially the Western world, this impression that they are countering Chinese communism to save Western world.
And this is now, Dr. Amna Mahmood, in all of this context comes Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, this continued spate of terrorism and harassment and violence that is being hampered on these hapless people of Indian occupied Kashmir. You saw that. We also showed you some clips of that little boy, that 3-year-old boy who was sitting next to the dead body of his grandfather, who was killed by the Indian forces. What kind of a message do you feel the purchase of military aircrafts by India also signifies to what it is doing in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and also in other parts of India targeting minorities?
Yeah, you know, it's Indian routine. They are doing the human rights violation at the last for the last 70 years, and it is not a new thing, and the world is knowing that. But they have been hiding this against their move for addressing terrorism. And it's very unfortunate after 9/11 in this century that all the freedom fighters, all the movements for their right of self-determinations were reduced to terrorism by Americans and their allies. And India exploited that opportunity, and you know, they declared all militants and free terrorists. They are actually the freedom fighters fighting for their right of self-determination. Nobody support violence. Nobody support use of weapon for freedom fighters. But at the same time, when you deny the right of self-determination for such a long period, then what is the other option? India is
Exactly.
building up
And
its
speaking,
military.
Dr. Amna Mahmood, speaking of options, speaking of the way India has been maneuvering in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir and with its neighbors as well, how can we forget this latest statements that had been emanating from the Indian media that Pakistan was garnering troops along the line of control. China had been given the authority to use the Skardu air base. Of course, that was denied by the DGISPR. On one side, they are buying their airplanes. On the other side, they are so afraid that they are saying, oh, you know, Pakistan is trying to build up its army presence on the line of control because of what we have been ourselves doing. Is that also a sign of guilt from the Indian side in your point of view?
That is actually just mercury from their side. They want to hide the facts. Otherwise, you know that in Chinese attacked on them just because of the fact that they have built up an air base in the area that is disputed territory. And China was concerned about their future designs, that they are going to use that air base against attack on China and against Pakistan, the area which is very sensitive for CPEC and where that is Pakistani held Gilgit-Baltistan. So India is using this opportunity. What China did, China actually reacted. It was not China's initiative. India was using that area, which is disputed territory, one as they declare it as a union territory, which was part of Kashmir, and it was a disputed territory on the resolution of United Nations. On the other side, when they declared it union territory, then they have no right to make such military installations in such a near area of China's disputed territory, which is disputed between China and India right now.
And Dr.
So,
Amna Mahmood, let's also not forget the fact that they are also continuously trying to put their nose into Pakistan's internal affairs by calling Azad Jammu and Kashmir as Pakistan occupied Kashmir, by talking about taking control of Gilgit-Baltistan, talking about the elections in Gilgit-Baltistan, that the Foreign Office, a statement that Foreign Office has very strongly refuted as well. I mean, they are putting their hands in too many pots. What will be the end result?
the problem is that India wanted to have its opportunity, wanted to have its own interests intact and violate all others. They want to assert their right on the areas of Gilgit-Baltistan, Azad Kashmir, and Ladakh, and they have made it. They have violated three. They have rather revoked 370, which was giving Kashmir a special status. At the same time, they have claim on the areas along the Chinese border, which is still disputed, and it is yet to be decided, and they have still status. But when comes the point of Chinese threat to India, they claim that we are innocent and we are facing Chinese
Exactly.
atrocities. So these are the
There's
double
another
standards
aspect to
India
it
is
all.
following.
There's another aspect to it all, Dr. Amna, that is the relationship between India and Russia and India and the United States. As you know, that US-India relations have kind of improved or strengthened in the last couple of years. And now we see that the Indian side is going and to Russia and asking for the purchase of equipment, because of course the Russian side was not happy. They were saying, why are you not going forward with the agreements that had been signed between the two sides? How do you feel that is all going to play between the relationship of US and India? Do you feel that it might, or will it dampen, or will it have no effect at all in the relationship between the United States and India?
Umar, there are a number of conspiracy theories on that. I just mentioned that the same situation emerged in 1962 when China attacked on India for a week, and then after a week they settled their score, and then they went on status quo. But India used this opportunity to open it to the West and for the procurement of the best equipment. Right now, they are doing the same. But in the wake of US-China trade war and in the wake of US-China tension due to the COVID-19, India is exploiting this opportunity to pose itself as the sufferers, and they wanted to have the best equipment possible coming from US. At the same time, they wanted to revive their defense pact with Russia, which was done in 1970, and then it was inherited by the current Russia. But I think that Russia's response would be not that much warm as US is expected to, because US is having right now its Cold War revived with China, and they are fighting a trade war, and
Exactly.
they are blaming China
Dr.
again and
Amna, a
again.
lot of things are happening on the international front, whether it be the relationship between India and the US, India and Russia, India and China, US and Russia, US and Pakistan, US and China. A lot of the diplomacy or the lack thereof is happening. Let's see how this all develops in the days and the weeks to come. We will be, of course, be updating you through our shows in a very regular manner on which pattern this is taking. Dr. Amna Mahmood, thank you very much to have joined us and for your words of wisdom, as we say. We'll see you again next week with new segments, with new shows, and we will keep you abreast of the latest that is happening on the national and the international affairs. Have a great weekend.